Hello, everybody. Hmm, will go away. There's someone in the hallway that's vacuuming. Hopefully, that sound isn't too loud. So, what are we doing today? The plan for today is going to be extending the Fuzzer stuff we put together last week. So, for people who weren't here last week we took so we started off with a whole bunch of Internet Explorer crashes. We'd been running Mangle Me, I believe that's what it's called. It's a fuzzer written by Michael Zalewski. I think it's the right way to pronounce it. Over a decade ago. I think it's from 2004, 2005, that time range. And the idea was that we would be able to run this fuzzer, we'd get a whole bunch of crashes in Internet Explorer 5.5, which is a browser from 2001, I think? Ancient. It's, as far as I'm aware, it is the latest version of Internet Explorer that will run on Windows XP. But, that was the intention. We had, I think, about 100 crashes to go through. Turns out none of those crashes were exploitable. There were a whole bunch of null derefs. There were, what are they called? Stack overflows. So not a stack buffer overflow, but when you have recursion or just very deep function calls such that each function call adds some space to the stack. Eventually you run out of stack space and you hit the guard page at the top of the stack. Although now that I'm saying that, I'm not actually sure if Windows 95 had a guard page. I wonder when those were added. That may actually be worth revisiting. So, I guess, let's diagram that real quick. So this is the most wonderful piece of software for diagramming things. Paint. And go. Here it is. Okay. Oh, thank you, Windows, with your built-in advertisements. It's the best, I know. So, for people who are unaware, you have a... That is not what I want at all. Of course, that's not... Turns out I do not have proper mappings for my tablet on MS Paint. My mappings only work properly in Photoshop, but this is much harder than I thought it was going to be to draw. So, the short version here is we have a stack like this, and every time we make a function call, we're going to make a new stack frame, something like this, or like this, and so on. And on a modern system, what is set up is way out here. There's a guard page that's set up. So this page, it's a single page in memory, which if you ever try and read or write from this page, you will cause a, I believe it's a page fault, but regardless of what the exception actually is, it will cause an exception that will usually terminate the program, unless for some reason you've decided to handle that. And the short version of this is the stack normally has things set up so that the stack can only grow to a certain size. And if you try and use this region as part of the stack, it's just going to fault and crash on you. However, this is, if we're talking about like the global sense of computer and like computering, then the guard page it's relatively new. What is Windows 95? So Google doesn't really have much on it. So I don't actually know when these were implemented. They were implemented at some point. And on modern operating systems, modern being anything for at least the past decade, yeah, page fault is not. It's got to be a seg fault then. See, the problem is I'm not sure if it is a seg. So a seg fault is a segmentation fault, which means generally, I think it should be a seg fault then. We can check it if we really cared. But you know what? Let's just do this rather than arguing about it forever. So void main and include standard io.h printf a/n main. Okay. The answer is there we go. It is a segmentation fault. So this is the type of exception that we got. So for anybody who didn't quite follow that there, a segmentation fault, in this case, we put together quite possibly the simplest program we can think of. We're just going to print out the letter A capital A, and then we're going to call main again. And eventually, because of recursion, that means we run out of space in the stack. So back in this diagram, so each time we call main, we get a new one of these boxes, one of these black ones. But eventually, we've got this one turning over here, and then over here, and then over here. And eventually, we're going to get into this red box. And when we're in the red box, we get a seg fault. So that's what most of the exceptions. So we got a ton of those exceptions, and we got a ton of null deref. So when a pointer generally wasn't initialized, or for some reason was set to a null pointer and not checked that it was null, that also causes a seg fault if we use it. Unfortunately, on modern systems, both of those are non-exploitable. So the null page, the page at 0, I don't think that's been mappable in at least 20 years. I don't think anything even remotely modern you can map the null page without jumping through some major hoops. Like on Linux, you can, but you have to set a couple settings that you can't as a regular user. I think you have to set some kernel settings, and then eventually it will let you map that address. But in general, it's not possible. And I think we verified last week that for Windows 95, it was going to be non-exploitable. However, on Windows 95, it is possible that there is no guard page here. And if there's no guard page, the attack that you can do is basically this block over here. Let's make this one blue. Is going to be for the heap. So if there's the entire intention of these guard pages is so that we have these nice black guard pages that are for our stack, or I'm sorry, stack frames, not guard pages. Oh, stop resizing that. I just want new boxes. So if we keep expanding, eventually we'd run up against this heap allocation. And if there wasn't a guard page here to stop us, we'd be able to actually get a stack frame that was in the heap, and all sorts of terrible things happen when that works. So it's very possible that our Stack Overflow might be exploitable on Windows 95. I don't think it's exploitable on Windows XP, which is where we were doing our testing. But it's possible that on Windows 95, it might be worth revisiting at some point. So this is all a very, very long way of saying the crashes we had weren't particularly useful. So the next thing to do is well, if our fuzzer isn't working, let's just use and or build a new fuzzer. And that led to this code back here. So this code is, again, pretty simple. Well, my additions to it are pretty simple. Let's get rid of those 2 test files real quick, because they do not belong in here at all. So this is Domato, or Domato. I'm sure someone will explain to me why I'm awful for pronouncing that way. So Domato, or Domato, is a fuzzer written very recently by Ivan Fraterick. Fraterick? I think that's how you pronounce it. We'll go with that at least. And it is a modern DOM fuzzer written by the Project Zero guys with the intention, and gals, I guess. Ivan is the only one I know that worked on this. But it is a modern DOM fuzzer, which is the... I'm blanking on what DOM actually stands for. Thanks, Google. I did not need that all the way completed. So the DOM is the document object model. It's basically like, it's how you reference the different parts of a like a rendered web page. Oh, and of course, I do that, and you can't actually see what I'm looking at. Oh, and it's back again. And Windows are hard. But so it is a DOM fuzzer, and I think if we have this currently set up, right? So if I load this back up, I want to do defuzzing Domato. I believe I want to do set Flask app is equal to Python -m Flask. Let's work. Do I remember how to do this properly? No. Oh. So close. So, and then if I come over here, I'm going to do localhost 5000. This is what we got work up. Right. So this is what we got working last week. And this is just very simply, it's running the Domato fuzzer, which is that fuzzer by Ivan Fraterick, and essentially all we're doing is we're loading, I think you can kind of see it here, this little iframe, which renders a web page. It will then wait a second. So we've got it set up so that every second it will attempt to refresh the page. As we can see here, something's happened such that it is not able to refresh properly. Interesting. Like, we stopped getting requests again. Which I think generally is because of a like very, very, very large allocation. And if we take a look at what this actually looks like, I want to give me this source. Yeah. This is what one of these pages looks like. And they're crazy complicated. That's interesting. The red stars I see are not SVGs, but data, URIs containing PNGs and GIFs to test various formats. That's interesting. So yeah, what this does is the Domato fuzzer generates a HTML page like this. It starts with a whole bunch of CSS. All of this is, my understanding, randomly generated. I haven't actually looked into how it generates all these pages. I just know that it generates pages, and according to them, they got... It's on this page someplace, isn't it? I think they found 20... Yeah, they found a whole bunch of new CVEs with this thing. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7... What am I doing? according to find, there are 29 occurrences of the word CVE. So this fuzzer, they found 29 new bugs, in theory, in stuff. So as far as what it's actually doing, it's generating these random pages. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Like, I have no idea what actually just about any of this does. Like, I'm not much of a web dev type. Like, oh, I know what stroke width does. I know sometimes you want to change that to make a border bigger or smaller. But it generates a whole bunch of CSS objects. And then it also generates a bunch of JavaScript to do something with it. So in this case, it will get the variable. So it sets up all of these elements, and then it's going to try and do a scroll into view with an argument, whatever that is. And then it'll try and set an attribute on variable 23, which is a command. Again, whatever this is, what this is actually doing doesn't matter that much to me. All that matters is that it creates random JavaScript and CSS and manipulates it all back and forth. And oh yeah, like this right here, apparently it also includes a random MP3. I have which of course I am now going to have to listen to. Play anything? I don't think it plays anything. Well, that's unfortunate, but that's what it's doing. There's a ton of this. Like, this thing is close to 3,800 lines of just randomly setting properties, changing things, calling variables. And at the end of all of this, it'll try and clean itself up. That's all this is. This is what the fuzzer looks like. As you can see, it got stuck again for some reason. That's all it's doing. So what we wrote was just this simple wrapper around it. So we use Flask, which is a Python web server, like very simple web server, which renders all this up. It's just sitting here on localhost for me, and it's going to serve it up. And the intention is that once we have all this working, we're going to be able to take this to our test box, which has the old version of Internet Explorer running in it, and we can actually take this and say, here is our, like, here's a page. We can, I'm blanking on words right now a little bit. We can point our browser at this page. It will sit here and fuzz. We'll be able to set up a automated watchdog. I don't currently have that written because for people who haven't been following along for the past several weeks, week and a half ago, I think, I decided while my current computer that you're all watching me stream from is actually perfectly fine, I wanted to upgrade to some newer hardware. In particular, the amount of RAM I have on this computer is quite small, especially given that I'm currently running 2 different VMs and Chrome on several different pages, and I'm trying to run the software to stream everything. And then result is that it's not terribly uncommon for me to run out of memory and have problems like that. So what I really wanted to do was I wanted to upgrade to a new machine that had all of the memory in the world. So I ordered everything. It's actually sitting right beside me, but I am still waiting on the bracket so I can mount the heatsink. So modern processors, at least the relatively high-end ones, apparently no longer come with integrated processors, which was news to me a little bit. What have we done? This is interesting. Oh, have we actually, like, did we, as I was talking about it, run out of memory? No, we still have some memory. Okay. Oh wow, this is like almost non-responsive. Close that, please. There we go. Okay, this is just that simple fuzzer, and if I backtrack to where I was, so I have all this new hardware. I've got a brand new, most of a computer to set up, and the end result is that I'm going to replace my current computer with all this new stuff. I'm going to take the current computer I'm using right now, and I'm going to put it, I'm not sure if it's actually going to go in the closet or just in front of the closet, and let it run, at least for now, this fuzzer constantly to see if we can get interesting results. Because what we've run up to so far is I ran the Internet Explorer 5.5 fuzzer for, what's it been? I think I put in about 30 hours worth of fuzzing with it, and we got a whole bunch of crashes, but nothing exploitable. So hopefully, if we ran it for a week or 2 weeks, it's going to get some of the more long tail crashes that are hopefully exploitable. But the intention is that once all of this is running, we'll be able to take this, we'll be able to fuzz it nicely, and hopefully get all of the crashes and go back to looking at them. But all of that is waiting on, and it frustrates me to no end that this is the case, a single small piece of metal. I need like a 3 or 4 inch long piece of metal so that I can properly mount the heatsink that I bought onto the new processor and motherboard. Because, like I was saying, apparently the AMD, so at least the high-end AMD processors, because they expect you to try and overclock them, if you're going to overclock it, you probably want to replace it with a custom heatsink. So rather than shipping the crappy little heatsink, they're going to get something. Like, they're not going to put in their crappy little heatsink and increase the price by $5 or whatever if most people are going to throw that away and replace it. So, yeah. End result, waiting on small piece of metal so I can fuzz it. So, I guess there wasn't a question there, but for right, I 100% do not expect to get, like, a Chrome crash right now. I would be 100% shocked if Chrome crashed right now for any reason other than I ran out of memory and it, like, can't do whatever it's trying to do. With that said, the old Internet Explorer stuff, I do expect to have exploitable crashes in it. So people stopped looking for crashes in this software probably at least a decade ago, which means my hope, at least, is that there is still a lot of unexplored space. And one of the things that's really interesting about this is that if this does find exploitable crashes quickly, it kind of supports the idea that the security community has actually gotten better over time. Ooh, that's pretty cool looking. I don't know, it's kind of been a, like, long-standing question. Have we gotten better at finding bugs, or are we just better at finding the current classes of bugs? And at least as far as I'm aware, like, there's been very little research into that question because it doesn't actually help to have an answer to it. Like, it doesn't help to say, oh, I can, like, rather than try and make a browser or operating system or whatever secure today, I'll just wait 5 years from now when we know how to make it more secure and we've learned more about how to find bugs, so we'll be able to get rid of them then. Like, that's effectively saying I'm just going to throw my hands up and give up for a couple of years. Like, it doesn't do anything. It does help people who are doing bug finding, though, because it lets them actually say, look, we're making real progress. Please keep funding us. But coming back around here, my hope here is because we're looking at an ancient browser that has probably not had modern fuzzing done on it, that the new techniques, so the old fuzzer, I believe, took just random. That's a unresponsive error, right? Right. That's not a real crash. This is what a real crash would look like. But in any case, that's the intent. We want to have this thing running. What I'd like to have is I'd like to have this thing running full-time in my closet and hopefully finding new stuff. In the future, that's so. I think a lot of people, I don't know what everyone in the chat's background is, but my hope is that many people have run fuzzers before, and that's why you're watching this. So most fuzzers, the intention is that you set it, you let it run, and at some point in the future, you're going to come back, you're going to look at the results and make decisions about it. Which may or may not be the... That's kind of cool looking. It somehow rendered the CSS, it looks like. You're going to look at the results later. I'm hoping that we're going to build, well, we're definitely going to build in the future some tools to make it easier to interact with your fuzzer as it goes. Like, what I'd like to be able to do is, I'm running a fuzzer, and I'm going to do something with that fuzzer while it's running to make its current runs better. What exactly that is, I'm not sure about, but we're going to get there. And so the first step of doing that is to, why is this, like, man, for something that I expected to not be any sort of useful results, it's hard-locked this many times. But we're going to build some stuff. Today is the first step of that. We have this basic fuzzer running. Now we need some status output. At the very least, I need to be able to say how many test cases we get and crashes we're getting, things like that. So we need to build some status stuff to actually overlay on the screen here. What I'd like to be able to do is run this fuzzer in my closet on a stream that I can watch and interact with. That's what I want to have at the end of all of this. But for now, we just want the status stuff. So, with that said, thank you, Ginvale. I noticed the donation there, which is super awesome. I think this is now the 20 minutes, half hour, something like that. It's been a long explanation now of, we're going to write a status bar. So that's all of that. This is my Windows Python. One of the things that was interesting that we ran into last week that I was a little bit surprised about, but probably shouldn't have been, is that if you notice here, I'm using the WSL stuff, the Windows Subsystem for Linux. Is that what that stands for? It's something like that, but running native bash or close to native bash on Windows. And it turns out you can't actually run a server from this. Well, you can, but it may or may not be able to get through the firewall. There's all sorts of problems with it. So I am writing my stuff in Vim on this and running it in the Windows Python, because the Windows Python can actually get through the firewall properly, whereas the I can't set a exception for the Linux Python. But what are we doing next? The next thing, so I guess let's run through this real quick. What exactly is our fuzzer doing? The first thing we're doing is we're what's the best way to do? So this right here, I'm doing this all wrong. Oh, I can't see it if I highlight it like that. So this first block of code up here is we're resetting a bunch of the... I can netcat from Windows to listen on a 000 port and then forward it to... I could do that, but then I'd have to have netcat running on Windows, which doesn't fix the problem, right? So I'd have to have... In some way, I have to introduce stuff to the external Windows side of things to be able to run stuff into the Linux stuff, and that's just messy. It's so much easier for me to just run the Python here and write it over here. Because really, all I'm trying to do is avoid having to set up a environment on my Windows stuff. Can't run a daemon, but you can run a service as long as the service does not stop or goes to the background. Yes. The problem isn't the service going into the background. It's that I can't open a external port such that the other VM can connect in to the other stuff. Ooh. Whoa. Whoa, what? What is this? What? No. So I have no idea what just happened in the chat there. No, the links should be fine. Yeah, we're gonna turn that off for now. Okay, so that was the... I'm not sure what it thought was a link. I'm guessing it was the, like, bash.exe. I don't know how to undelete something now. Well, that's unfortunate. So, for people who aren't aware, Nightbot is a, like, super standard streaming bot that... The intention is to do some simple, like, I can do, like, bang commands in the chat, and Nightbot should respond, except I think I've now kicked it off the channel, so it can't respond. The entire intention here is, if we step back a little bit, I was talking about I want to be able to stream my fuzzer running and actually be able to interact with it while it's running. And the first step towards doing that is I was playing with some of the Nightbot stuff, and apparently I set it up on the channel and it didn't go away. So, thanks, Nightbot. That's not at all what I wanted you to do. But, with all that said, back over to what the fuzzer is doing. So, the fuzzer here, this on the right is the Domato listing. It's made up of several different pieces, but the important stuff for us is this generator.py. If you invoked it normally, you would do a, what is it? Python generator. There's a couple of arguments for it. I would give it like a directory and a, number of files to create, and it'll generate that many files for me. That's the way it normally works, and my understanding is that's the way that Google used it. It was to set it up. They set up a whole bunch of test cases, and they used... Can't remember what their like actual fuzzer is that they usually use. But they've talked about it in a couple posts. But the end result is doing things that way doesn't work for what I want to do. I want to directly serve those pages up. Like I want to run a server and directly serve them up. So what we had to do is come over here on the left, I don't want to resize you, I just want to be able to highlight text. And we set up, this is just repeating code out of the original generator. We parse out their code for HTML, CSS, and JS tokens. Again, I have absolutely no idea how their grammar stuff actually works. I just basically took how they were doing things and ported it into this. And after we've set up all of these tokens, we've created everything for it. And then we use just some really standard Flask stuff. So Flask is a very simple web server for Python. We set up a route. We say that if you go to localhost 5000 / it first it sets up this database, and this is to store the status of test cases, which is what we're going to be working on today. It doesn't if it successfully is able to select from it, it's fine. If it can't select from it, then we need to create a new table. We then create this very simple refresh the page every second. Create an iframe, which is fuzz, which is up here. And this is, again, super simple. We're going to open the same SQLite file. Then set everything up, and for the most part, it just works. It sets up a sample. It then presents it to the user, and it shoves it up as the most recent test case for us to be able to use it. So, with that said, today we're going to add the app.route /status page. So there are many things in the chat. I need to use WB for this. I don't actually know if I do need to use WB. So I'm not actually sure one way or another if there is some magicness that goes on with the WSL stuff or not. Seriously? So the bot will complain, but you know what? You can just go away now. Go. We can fix that later. Where is this? So no, I will keep the old version of this. Let us open this. Here is fuzzing. So it looks like it has the right stuff to me. But I don't know. One way or another, it works out fine. In that this on the Windows side is able to successfully run it, regardless of if it fixes up Linux. I'm not going to ask all that many questions. But I might miss some DOM interactions by refreshing too quickly. Yeah, the 1 second is just to get test cases quickly. I'm not convinced that it's the right answer. I know so I previously set a lot of this up on a Azure instance, running through some of the free monthly credit that you get for having an MSDN license. That got torn down though when I found out that because of how it's set up, I can't stream sound from Azure without jumping through some ridiculous hoops. The entire idea of being able to stream my Fuzzer running wasn't going to work from Azure, which is so very, very, very much wasted time. Unfortunate. For people that are curious, the reason there is that the way their systems are set up, they don't have a sound card, which means that none of the streaming software will be able to play any sound. At least OBS, which is what I use, won't stream any sound because it tries to capture off what is playing on the system already. But if there's no sound device to capture off of, it just won't play any sound. It's dumb. I spent more time than I would care to trying to fix it. Instead, we're just going to set things up in my closet, and it will work perfectly fine that way instead. So, we have a test case here for our status. There's a few different things that we need to do. And what's the most important one here? So, I'm thinking about what we're actually doing here. Hello? I'm always a little bit creeped out when... So, while I'm streaming, I have headphones on, and occasionally, like just now, I heard just a random sound come through, even though I'm not listening. I shouldn't hear sound, and whenever I do, it makes me wonder exactly what's going on that is causing that. Hopefully that was just me accidentally scraping against something, but who knows? Maybe my computer is trying to tell me something. It does not want to be retired and put to work in the bug farms. But, where are we? So we're writing this status, and let's actually go back over here. So we have this notes file. What we want to have is we want to have a simple status overlay. And at a minimum, I want to have the current rate of fuzzing. I don't actually know what we're going to do. So yes, I tried for probably 4 or 5 hours to try and get like virtual audio cable, ASIO for all, 1 or 2 other super sketchy looking random things that claim to be a virtual audio card. None of them would work unless I had a physical device there already. They'd all start to work, fail because they're designed to like hook things up together, and I'm sure there's a way to do it. I just could not come close to figuring it out. And eventually I just said, you know, this is not worth my time. Like setting this up to run for a week or 2 is not worth my time when I can just wait for my new hardware to come in and use that instead. Which I think it was actually a large push towards buying new hardware in the first place. Because I've been on the fence about buying new hardware to up the RAM for months now. I eventually was like, this is not worth my time. Yeah, I suspect I could write a driver for it. But I don't know what the minimum amount of driver writing to do to have a device. Like, I need a device which I can dump audio to and that OBS can grab audio from. And I'm not sure how much of a device that needs to be. And at least the way that I saw it, it's probably going to take me at least 4 or 5 hours, possibly like an entire weekend to write that. And I'm not sure I really want to do that work. So instead, we're just waiting. Because this problem fixes itself when my new hardware comes in, and instead of using Microsoft's quite pricey server instances, I get my hardware for free, or nearly free. The other problem that made me not at all upset to lose that setup was It turns out streaming video is much more processor intensive than I thought it was. I knew it was intensive, but it currently takes 16% of my CPU to stream this video. And so I was thinking, oh, I'm sure I can do, push, if I'm not doing anything graphics intensive, I should be able to just stream it pretty simply. That is not true at all. I am apparently not at all understanding how video encoding works, because even to create 720p video was taking up 4 cores on Azure instances. So what I ended up going with was I could get 10 frames a second at 720p on, if I was so the math that I did was that if I want to have a single VM fuzzing and I want to stream the fuzzer running, the best video rate I can get was 720p at 10 frames a second, and that is costing the entire $50 a month worth of Azure credit I get for free. To which I said, this is not going to work out long term. There's no way I'm going to keep doing this. Instead, hardware in the corner. It will die eventually. At some point it will definitely it doesn't, what's the right way to word it? It does not hurt the hardware. However, the hardware has a mean time to failure. So, what is it? On average, most hardware, there's a number that, for some hardware, I don't know if most consumer processors have a number for it, but I can probably run this processor for, I don't know, 10,000 hours, and on average it will fail after that. But since I'm replacing this anyway, it's going in the corner. It can die in a year if it does. I've already had this long enough. I'm not too upset if this hardware craps out on me. But yeah, as far as I'm not particularly concerned about the funding aspect of it. It's more of a trying to do the video streaming of the fuzzer was just not going to work out well at all. It is much more graphics intensive than I thought it was to push out video. So all of this is a very long way of saying the fuzzer, we need a status bar for it. So ideally what I want is right around here. I want to have a window that has the current rate of fuzzing. I want a time since last crash. Is there anything else I want here? Oh, you know what? I don't want the current rate of fuzzing. I want the cases last minute, cases last hour. Sound good? Half hour. That sounds a lot more plausible. Actually, you know what is the standard here? It's last minute, last 5 minutes, last half hour. Time since last crash. Probably want coverage is going to be hard. Ideally, I would want to have coverage, but that is definitely much farther down the line, because instrumentation for it is going to be complicated. And so, for one, I'm looking at a binary target. I can measure coverage. Doing that is going to be complicated and not ready for what I'm doing. Yeah, like that's going to be complicated. It's doable. Definitely not where I'm starting with. Time since last crash. Total number of crashes. What else do I want? I feel like I'm forgetting something important here. Oh, I'm being dumb, aren't I? Let's SSH into 168.5.1.9. Yes, although... Oh, because I'm... This is something... A small annoyance that I should fix and haven't gotten around to yet, which is the screen for WSL, you have to run as root. So it's dumb. I need to just fix it. I haven't gotten around to fixing it, but of course I'm now trying to SSH as root. No. Where am I? So what was the last thing I fuzzed on here? PDF crack still around? Ooh, PDF crack is still around. I do have this. So AFL fuzz-iioo/PDF crack. Ugh. Hate that you have to set this up every time. Sudo password. At-risk data found in O. Thank you, AFL. Okay. So, AFL gives me... I hate you so much. I hope you know that. And... Okay, so AFL has runtime. Ooh, that's a good one. Notes. Yeah. There we are. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. Total time fuzzing. What do I want? Total number of test cases. What else is useful here? Pass I can't do. Hangs. I think hangs and crashes look the same to me. Because the way that I'm going to... So the way that I'm going to... Oh, that's not true at all. They don't quite look the same. They look similar, though. Cycles I can't do. Map coverage I can't do. Findings I can't really do. Yeah, the rest of this I can't really do. Okay. And we're not doing uniqueness yet. Uniqueness should come along, though. So, yeah, total time fuzzing. I mean, ideally I would have a... So, I know you can't see this. The cat has decided that she would like attention and has decided to lay on top of the arm I'm trying to type with. Thanks. Oh. But we want a status, and ideally, and you know what, let's do this real quick. Return stat is message. Actually, let's do buff is equal to that. So we have this. We're going to start this thing. And I believe that if this works right, I'll be able to actually add this to the stream right now. Thanks for coming in today, Anawini. It was nice to have you. Hopefully things go well for you. Come on. I want a browser source. Status. I do not want the OBS project. I want localhost 5000/status. So if this works the way that I think it works, that is indeed a status message for us. So we have this nice little box here that hopefully all this works properly. And let's change the color on this so I can actually see it. Properties. Oh, that's the wrong one. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Properties. One. Oh, thank. This is not working out the way that I was hoping it would work out. I was very hopeful that this would be quite simple and it would just work. Okay, so I want this one. Just going to straight up steal this. Back over here. That one. Why did that not change my... Okay, we're just going to ignore this then. Oh, because I didn't actually change it, did I? For shame. For shame indeed. Does this work? That does not work. Okay, let us get rid of this thing. Yes. New one, which is this. Yes. This yeah. Localhost 5000/status. So we now have this very faint text that I will have to make us look at later, which is conveniently transparent though. So if I go I paint, you can see it. Yay, things kind of work. But we want the... So current rate of fuzzing. How are we going to do this? So if I just have simple text, I think simple text looks fine, right? I can mess with the CSS with it later. I probably want to make it a little easier to customize, but for now, we have a status. /n. Fuzzing rate. Now that I think about this, this doesn't work at all the way that I... Oh no, not do that. For people who can't just guess what I do, because obviously you cannot see my mouse. What ended up happening there was I accidentally right-clicked, which for the bash stuff by default will paste it to current window. Why is this not dying for me? I don't understand why it's not... I can't even control C this thing. Ta-da! Now you have to work for me. Oh. I think at some point it'll probably get posted somewhere. At least for now, it has not been. Why is this not refreshing for me? Oh. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yep, I have to actually write some... And the more I do this, the more that I'm pretty convinced I'm doing this. Like, I really need to not do it this way, but for the simplest thing, it will work. So for now, we're getting this awful, awful looking stuff. So current rate of fuzzing, let's ignore that for now. We want last crash is something. We want the crash. Want a crash info. Want the number of crashes. Overall status. Time fuzzing. And seriously, cat? Do not rub your head on the microphone. And total number. Okay, so this is this. Here, run that. Here, refresh this. And put up a window so we can actually see it. I want this. We now have status, fuzzing rate, crash info. Yep. That looks like about what I want. I want. And I'm sure, I mean, given the number of people watching, it might not be true, but there are certainly plenty of people that would cringe very hard seeing how I do my web development. But we have this. We basically need to fill all of this out now. Have crash info, time since last crash, total number of crashes, a fuzzing rate. What's the best way to handle this? So I can do fuzzing rate kind of like Top does, right? So we have a load average for, I don't remember what the load average times are. I think it's minute, 5 minute, half hour, but we can just put all the numbers in a row like this, or we can have them like actually split them out on separate lines. I'm not sure which is the best way to do it. So, oh. I don't think it's worth overthinking this, is it? Nope, it is totally not worth overthinking this. So we're just going to do separate lines. No, we are not. We're going to do them all on one line. So %s, %s, %s. I want that line, I want to replace it with /n, quote. There we go. This way the source looks a little bit better, so this output will hopefully be a little bit more viewable if I need to debug it at some point. So we have all this. Oh, seriously? That is not what I wanted at all. That is what I want. But we have this. In order to make this work, we need to actually add in quite a bit more information. So currently, how does this currently work? The way we currently do things, when we do a test case, we're going to insert into test cases, test case used by, so the block of HTML that is put into. The benefit that SQL is giving me is that it is slightly easier to manage. Especially when I have, at some point I'm going to, ideally I do not have a single instance running, so I hopefully have this working a little bit more easily. I just don't have to worry about race or locking. Generally, I end up using SQLite when I don't want to have to worry about locking, because I can just let SQLite handle it instead. Although, given that I believe Flask has some, like, I believe by default Flask is running single-threaded, I'm not sure. But there is a relatively long-term view of this that I want to be able to easily have things distributed, where I have the fuzzer running on one machine and getting stuff served up reasonably well, and the status is like, blank on the word here, replicating to a remote machine that it works better on for status stuff. There's probably a very good argument that it's overkill and not the best way to do it, but the original reason for it was I was generating 1,000 test cases, shoving them in a SQL database, and then serving them one at a time to whatever request came in. And that worked out reasonably well, because it's a lot easier to have things lock. So if I need to be able to lock it, well, I don't need to, but I want to have it easily locking, it made sense to do it that way. Now, not so much. The file system might be easier. But, oh, that's the other reason. Because I would like to be able to have the watchdog process handle test cases. So if you notice, we delete a test case when the next request comes in. So a test case has a use by value. The use by value is the IP address of who is requesting. And the intention here is that we should only keep one request at a time for each fuzzing instance. And when it crashes, we just need to save off the last test case. And that should be easy enough to do it. You can 100% do that through file system stuff. The SQL stuff is just easy to do. So, to answer Boogie's might want to run more than one snapshot of your VM at a time. The generator is just overkill. Maybe? I'm not sure I follow the point there. So the generator is straight up what the... So, to start with here, the fuzzer I'm using, I did not write any of the actual fuzzer. This is what Ivan Pratnick wrote for Project Zero to do fuzzing of all the browsers. I am just applying it to a target that he, for very, very, very good reasons, thought was not relevant anymore. How they're generating stuff, I don't know and don't care about. All I care about is being able to properly serve their test cases and catch crashes and correlate them with a test case that was input. And at least my experience with it is that SQLite is roughly equivalent in time for file system stuff, but I can structure it a little bit more easily. For example, right now, I need to add in more information. So because I want to keep track of all the status stuff, I am going to, and I'm going to think about this for a minute here to make sure I don't do very stupid things. Let's start with the easiest thing here. I want to do the total number of test cases is going to be, what am I doing here? Total number of test cases going to be, oh, I need to remember how to actually do this, don't I? I'm being dumb. SQLite 3, because I have to look this up basically every time I want to do it. Write syntax for actually selecting something. D, I went to the decimal number. Ooh, I can get all fancy, can't I? So on is equal to SQLite3.connect test D. Is that not? D set. So we do that. Want to fetch one. Select count from I am switching between 3 different languages here is a little tricky on my head. Eight table getters. What all do we need here? So I can expand this later, so I don't need to worry too much about keeping this data around. Good. So I have this where for each iteration, I want to save off. Do I care about the time? Yes, I care about the time. Time integer. So I want time. I want course. We're not currently keeping track of a test case. You know what? We probably should do that. Which means I need to go look up how to do this properly. ID int. I actually want this to be a no. Yeah, you know what? I don't care enough about to do. Like, I probably want to. I'm really torn right now. So my thought process here is I currently have this test cases database, which should at any given time have at most a number of rows which is equal to no. Ah. That's what I should do. I want test case int. I also want create table results. And I want a ID int and test case text. Right. So we now have 3 tables here. One is test cases, which has a row for each currently running test case. We have iters, which is going to have a little bit of metadata for each test case that has ever run. And then we have results, which is going to have a mapping for iters and the actual test case. And let's think again to make sure that this actually makes sense. If this makes sense, then we should have does this make sense? I feel like indexing is going to be a problem here. Well, good night, everybody. It's been nice to have you. I do find it fascinating the like level of community a lot of the European security people have. It always impresses me that, like, I'm assuming that most of the people who are saying they're going to sleep right now are in Europe, where 8 o'clock. So in England right now it's 10 p.m. I think. If you are farther than that, it is later. But in any case, good night, all of you. Like I was saying, I am consistently impressed by the groups of people in Europe that way that at least to me, I get the impression that people are a lot more kind of talkative in Europe about security stuff. Maybe that's the right way to put it. There's a tendency in the US that a lot of the people here are working in a situation where they don't want to talk about it at all, so they don't talk to anybody. But in any case, for all of you going to bed, good night. Thanks for coming. Hopefully I will see you guys next week. And if not, hopefully you have better things to do than listen to me ramble for large periods of time. Hopefully by next week, I will have all of this up and running, and this will be running all the time. The Fuzzer, not me, sitting here talking all the time. That would be awful. So, but hopefully this Fuzzer will be up and running, so people who are interested can watch it run by next week. Hopefully. But where were we? So we have this results table. I'm trying to think of the right way to map all of this. Because ideally we're going to have a... I'm almost positive I am overcomplicating. And I'm not happy about that. What to do? Ooh, that's not good. What actually happens here? So I create a cursor. The cursor is going to get destroyed. I don't actually... I think I have to commit that. How does this ever work? Like, I'm pretty sure this is just losing data constantly, the way it was written. But where were we? So the mapping here is I want back to the paint. So I want to have a test case, I want to have a iteration table, and I want to have a results table. An iteration will have a time, much smaller. It will have a time, it will have a source. Does it need anything else? It probably needs an ID, right? So if each iteration gets this, those are my rows, then I want ID to map to this, is going to be test case, the text. We don't need the source anymore. The problem about doing it this way, though, means that we would have to... I'm blanking on words here. Like, the way to select this is more complicated. No, it's not. I'm going to do this the worst way ever. I can do this in a single select. That works fine for me. And then this is going to map over here a test case text. If I'm doing it this way, does it matter? I don't need two tables if these have the exact same contents in them. In fact, I very much should not have two tables. This is what I get for trying to do this on not much sleep from last night. Unfortunately, I only ended up getting probably 4-ish hours of sleep last night. Trying to think through database design when I'm not thinking particularly well to begin with, not the best thing in the world. Let's assume I get rid of this, right? Bigger. Let's get... So right now this is not on GitHub. Once it's up and running, I probably will. Like, my plan is to release source for this at some point, but at least until I have a version that works, I'm going to just keep it on my machine. Once it's up and running, though, I will definitely post stuff. So if I have this, then I also want to have, for here, a status message. So if I grab it, I can set a current status. Can I do a union update? A thing? Okay, so I can do a select like that. Ooh. I know that you can't see this. So I want to update C set C.order status of that from customer is C. Outer joins. This is confusing and scary. Don't like this at all. So complicated. Oh, kitty. Where is O coming from? This is complicated. Okay. So going back to this, I want to update the status. I want to then map if the status is not I feel like there is a way to do this. For a given message, if this is the database, right, that test case maps to this ID, ID is an index here, and it is not an index here. I want to get the status is currently, if the status is running, then I want to delete the test case. Oops. And set the status to I guess I can run two. That's not too. But that means I can get rid of this line. But it means that I need to. What did we say we had here? Status. Status text. We have test case text. We no longer need the used by. So, right? So we have an ID, which is the integer. We have the text for it. In iterations, we have current time, a source integer. Source is not an integer. Source is a text string. We have a test case, which is an integer. And I gotta do this again. SQLite auto. A column with type integer primary key. That's right. I'm way overthinking this. The cost of running one of these test cases is way higher than anything I'm doing in Streamable. Like, generating a test case, running a VM that handles it, doing everything else is so much more processor intensive than anything I could possibly do at the SQL level that it doesn't matter. So insert into. Okay. We're just going to remove all of this. So we're going to do a g.execute. So I want to do thinking through how to do this is frustrating. I need to, how do I do a join? That's what I need to remember. So equal join. I have two tables. select orders dot ID. Sorry, I am, of course, looking at the W3 schools page join because how do computers work, I don't understand. Can I do a delete join? Oh, databases, so complicated to get set up. From thing where I can do that. Delete from test cases where ID select test case from hitters where status equal to running. Single quotes. And this is where we all go, oh, this is awful. Why would you ever do this? Answer is because computers. So we've now actually do something with delete from that. We've deleted that. Execute update. Definitely look up how to do it. Update hitters set status is equal to and source is equal to question mark. Want request dot boot comma but status is equal to did status running source is equal to question mark, and this is again request dot remote adder set. We've now set the previous test case as done. We're going to leave a comment here. Usually don't do that on stream, but comments are going to be so very useful next when I need to actually understand test cases. Resetting test cases. You now need to insert indicators time source status use question mark running. Actually load with stuff, so time and request remote import time here, so we can have that. We've created that and now need to do trying to think of the right way to do this. I don't know if this actually works or not. Insert into test cases. Test case key values question mark comma select test case from iterators where question mark and status running. And this is going to be, so the first question mark is our test case, which is buff. Our second question mark is source, which is request.remote. Okay. Let's see if that actually works. And as a final piece of this, we're going to remove test cases.db. We need to kill this, start it, and hopefully this just, oh. Okay, create table test cases. Failed because text. Failed because text? Oh, all of this was working, wasn't it? Create table test cases. Oh. Apparently managed to somehow lose a... That keep happening. Keep being unable to kill my Python here. Silly. Okay, we reloaded it. Still have an error. Still have an error. Auto increment is only allowed on an integer primary key. Oh, do I actually have to... Is an int different than an integer? That's kind of dumb if that's the case. Like, I am super concerned if an integer and an int are different types. But hopefully our stuff is not long running enough to matter. Okay, so now we are dying on... Oh, of course. Okay, so we die no such table iters. I created iter. It's seriously getting kind of annoying that my Python doesn't seem to want to refresh properly. Oh hey! Oh hey! Wow, that actually worked! It's always a good sign when something like this is like a little surprising that it worked right. I feel like databases are always in that book, though, that like, holy crap, this thing actually worked! Because really, databases are magic. I don't... Yeah. How do I redraw? Display? Is that... Oh, yeah, there we go. Check DB whether inserting. Error. Given that we're not getting errors, I think it's hopefully safe that we're getting stuff actually added properly. So with this done, this is our... So we should be able to do... Like, this should now work. Localhost 5000 / status. 25 test cases. So we are successfully getting test cases plugged in, which is good. That's the first thing we need. We also need the time fuzzing. So this is going to be c.execute select. What did we call this thing? You know what? Light 3. What was this thing called? Test cases. We want time. So select time from jitters order by time sending. Limit 1. I think it's right. And this is going to be time.time minus c.fetch 1. 0. This should now, hopefully that gives us the time fuzzing. And like, it's not perfect, right? Because clearly we're not fuzzing right now, but it's still going to update the time, and like, I don't even know how to fix that properly, right? Like, I could say the time between the last test case and the current test case, but even that, oh no! Stir object is not callable. What? Oh. Yeah, this is clearly a sign that maybe I could use some. There we go. Time fuzzing is many seconds. That looks relatively reasonable. Going up? Yeah, that's going up. Okay, so that works. Why did that lose stuff? This should not be an S, that should be a what's the right format? I want it to strip off decimal place. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. So we have those two. Those were easy. Total number of crashes. Well, times/crash is going to be easy too. So times/crash is going to be c.execute select time from order by time descending 1 going to be sent time.time minus .fetch. What do you mean reconnect? Is it just because I'm not fuzzing right now? Which I'm okay with doing for now. This, we went to order by where status is equal to crash. So that's that. That's easy. This is going to be total number of crashes is going to be .fetch1 plus equal p.execute select count from iter's where status is equal to crash. That's both of those. Oh no, which one did he fail on? None type object does not have. Oh. Interesting. So we actually need to handle this case, right? Last is equal to fetch 1. If last, then we're going to do else buff no recorded crashes. Right. So we're getting the last crash. If we cannot get the last crash, assume that not had any crashes yet. Like, if there have been no crashes. What? Oh. Okay. Where was I? We're here. I can't do that. I want to do that. Okay. This. I want to change this. Should be a little bit closer to where we want to be. Yay! No recorded crashes. Except I want. Yeah. Okay, so those all work. We have no recorded crashes, time, fuzzing rate, last crash. Why is last crash up there by itself? So this can go away. Now we need to calculate the fuzzing rate, and that's... So... I want to do p.execute select star from count. Star from iter's where time is greater than question mark. Question mark is going to be dot time minus past minute seconds. One is equal to 1. Duplicate all those, so min 1, 5, 5 times 30. Actually, add these in. 1, min 5, min. And we now have test cases, right? So if I go to this thing. These are running, this is working. We look over here on the right. I don't like the fact that this thing does not update on its. So what do I want to do? Where am I going? Here. So we have all of this, and we're just going to straight up kill this. Buff plus equal slash body 10 slash. Start this. How did I get a post request? Oh, Fuzzer, you're so crazy. Okay, so we have this running. Come over here. We have this. I want to force you to refresh. Ah, look at that. It's even live refreshing now. Oh. And this is a very simple example of what I want to have. Right, so it is very poorly formatted, but on the right here, we now have some basic information. Like we are now successfully managing to say, oh look, we've currently gone through 100 and so many test cases, spent the past, what's that, 10, 15 minutes fuzzing. We're currently fuzzing about 38 a minute, 39 a minute. Eventually, they should get close to 60 per minute because we're refreshing these every second. Yeah, this I'm reasonably happy about. Although I want to change the. So this page is refreshing every second, which is probably way too fast. Well, every 2 seconds sounds fine. Oh. Of course, by doing that, it now dies. Yeah, so the intention here is this fuzzer is running. We now have some status that's going up on the screen for us. Uh-oh. That's interesting. So... Oh. Well, that's unfortunate. What is going on? Oh, is there like some weird... this is going to be a problem then. So, if you notice what just happened there, I had a test case running, and it locked, like it still had an open connection, which I guess is why I've been unable to break in before. So there's apparently at least some requests that are leaving Flask open, and so that stopped the refresh from working too. Although I guess if we're... So, thinking ahead, the purpose of this is that I'm not fuzzing Chrome on my, like, desktop. I'm fuzzing IE55 in a VM that is being periodically reset to go back to a known good state. So, it doesn't matter if it sometimes locks things up. We can reset whenever we need to and not worry about it. Good. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we immediately want to add here. Like this very simple test case stuff, I'm pretty happy with. trying to think if there's anything else that I would want to add. And so my hope here is that my mounting bracket for my heatsink comes in hopefully this week. If not that, then early next week. So that I can get all this running full-time in a closet and be able to sit here and watch this. Which means that next week, so the browser stuff is kind of interesting, but not thrilled with the complexity of it, given that, like, oh yeah, it's super exciting that, like, if we find crashes, it's interesting. If we don't find crashes, app.run threaded is equal to true. That I can 100% do. Oh, no, I'm using the old app stuff. Flask. Edit. So to answer Avi's question, we're using... Why am I blanking on words again here? Domato. So that's the relatively new, like it's 2 or 3 weeks old now at this point, DOM Fuzzer from Project Zero. And in particular, I'm just writing a wrapper for it for, like, here's a server that serves up test cases from Domato. Yes, it's Domato. And the intention here is to run it against ancient Internet Explorer to get examples so that we can actually write browser exploits, but not... So I would like to write a browser exploit on stream. However, if it was a modern browser, like Chrome or something, I'd be a little bit concerned about the security implications, as well as the fact that I'm now, like, not eligible for any sort of, like, bug bounty or anything for it, I think. But the full version here being, I am very comfortable with ancient Internet Explorer, and doing that on stream. I'm not comfortable with doing a modern browser on stream. So we're going to hopefully find some ancient Internet Explorer bugs and land them. But this is the setup that I'm currently hoping to use to find those crashes. So, in here, the last thing I need to do is set up threading on this so that I can actually have both these running without dying. Thought it was in here someplace. Come on. This is unfortunate. Debug I don't need a shell. Where is it? Come on. I hate that I, like, am blanking on so much stuff right now. Care about the installation. You care about the quick start guide. Oh, right, I should over here. Watch me flail, not just listen to me talk as I flail. So I don't need the debug stuff. More parameters are explained in the development server. So, oh, that's convenient. Here I've been running it that way. So threaded. I hate that I've gone through so much and it was actually just that easy. So let's restart this. Good. Is our... Oh, this refreshed on me, and so that looks good. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. So I didn't modify the HTML template. I have a iframe that is doing it. Because I think I don't actually have a good reason for that. Oh, the reason why I'm doing that is in case I get a because of how the old version of IE worked, I ran into a lot of cases where it would crash the current page, but not in an exploitable manner. So by doing it in an iframe, I should get slightly better runtime and less false positives about things crashing when they didn't actually crash. So, yeah, I think it's about all that I'm going to do for tonight. We've got this whole status thing working. We're getting stuff running. I have, like, the Fuzzer works. I have status boxes. So what I'm planning on doing is actually setting this up to run 24/7 as a stream, kind of like what we're watching right now. So again, right now I'm running this on my desktop, so I have to manually refresh it as opposed to automatically reverting a VM. But if I don't have videos of it because I didn't save the videos. So when we first started doing browser fuzzing, I decided like the pictures this thing's displaying are actually kind of fun to watch. So I want to try and make kind of interactive fuzzers. I want to try and have a fuzzer that somebody can watch run, get some sort of meaningful input, and help direct it on where to go next. Because, like, there are plenty of people who have tons of success saying, like, here's a fuzzer, go run for a week on, you know, my server or lots of servers or whatever. And when I come back in a week, I'm going to have a ton of crashes. So that's interesting, but that's something that lots of people have done that, and that's fine. What I'm trying to play with is I want to be able to have more interactive fuzzers. And the first step of that is I need a basic fuzzer, which is what we see here with some status. And the next step for this is the ability to, as part of like, I'm sitting here watching this, I want to be able to do basic triaging from the YouTube chat box, because I think that'd be hilarious. And eventually this is going to turn into YouTube Plays Fuzzing and have lots of things that somebody watching a fuzzer run can actually manipulate such that the fuzzer runs slightly differently, hopefully getting more coverage, more crashes, and things like that. That's the goal. That's quite a ways out, though. For now, we have this. Hopefully I get this running soon on hardware so that it's running all the time. Once it's up and running, I do plan on pushing some of this source code to GitHub. I don't know when exactly that'll be, but it is a plan for the future. Yeah, so one of the things I think is going to be a really interesting use case is I have a crash from Domato. Rather than me manually doing it and like trying to work out how to minimize it, I can just ask somebody who's watching the fuzzer run to minimize a test case for me. Like, give me a smaller version of this. If it crashes, awesome, get a point. If it doesn't crash, then no point. So my GitHub is github.com/ummermiss. Where did my chat box go? My chat box is over here. Right now, there's not a ton in it. Right now, I think the most important, like the most interesting thing is it's where I keep my CTF repo, which is the test directory that I use for all my CTFs. So, like Seesaw was a couple weeks ago, and all of the stuff. Or wow, was that almost a month ago? Time flies. But like Seesaw, this is the directory I played Seesaw from. Things like that. There's also the improved happiness stuff, which is wrappers around Lua for writing pwnable challenges. I was working on that on stream a few weeks ago. I will definitely be going back to this once some of the Fuzzer stuff is up and running and it's fuzzing and hopefully getting crashes. Right now, I want to get this up and running as soon as possible because it needs time to run and get results. What else do I have in here? I also have always Be Fuzzing, which is probably the test case where, like, this is where the stuff we're working on today will eventually get pushed to. Not yet, but eventually it will. So, hopefully that answers your question. Other than that, I think I'm done for tonight. We got it took a little while to get this status box working. Like I would have liked it to be a little bit faster to do, but it works. It's up. I can actually put it on screen, which is great. I don't think if there's anything else to do tonight, because I think given the fact that I've been kind of scatterbrained and I'm quite tired, I think tonight's going to be about the end of it for tonight. So, hello! Unfortunately, as you tune in, I'm probably about to call it an evening because I am many tireds, and I will be back next week, hopefully, with this up and running full time, because this Fuzzer running all day, every day would be quite great. I would enjoy it very much. So, like I said, everybody, thanks for tuning in. If you're not already, I try and make sure to post on Twitter about what's going on with future streams. At least the day of, I try and make sure that I post what topic I'm planning on doing. I know today, well, this morning, I posted that, ooh, that was crap. So, this is probably something we should, this is something that we should also be able to account for. Which our current setup... nobody probably caught that, but actually we can because we can walk back in time in the stream. But the background of the main page changed to red. So there should be an 800 by 800 iframe here. And it looked like the iframe was still there, but the background of the outer page changed. And it might be worth... So there's a whole class of bugs which are not code execution bugs, like they're not memory corruption, but iframe escapes are interesting. Like, especially given that this is an up-to-date version of Chrome, a iframe escape in that would be interesting. And, like, for example, an iframe escape, like what is it, the universal cross-site scripting stuff. There's a whole class of non-crashing browser bugs that are still very interesting to find and very useful to find. So, in any case, that's all I've got for today. Hopefully people enjoyed watching me kind of flail around with SQL. And like I was saying, if you're not already following me on Twitter, I do recommend it. I definitely recommend you following lots of other people on Twitter too. It is one of the best sources for information security related news. But I try and post what's going on with the stream at least the morning of, just so that people know what to look forward to when I manage to get on the stream. So Like I said, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you all next week, hopefully with a working fuzzer. Bye.